Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, this is a react that we're going to be doing today that I have been looking forward to for a very long time. Not looking forward to it from the idea that this is like an issue or this is like a topic that I was like excited to cover, but it's a topic and it's an issue that I feel like has not gotten the proper level of communication, the proper level of clarification across the past couple of months, and has led to, in my opinion, one of the most misguided attacks in the history of just social media as a whole. And so, naturally, right, you might be wondering which video in particular I'm going to be looking at over here on Think Before You Sleep's channel. It should be pretty obvious if you know who I am. It's going to be this video. What dating an OnlyFans girl is like. And of course, we're going to be seeing Tectone on the screen with the caption, "Not guilty." And I've had private conversations with other individuals. I've had private conversations where I've been able to, read public documents, and I've come to my own opinion on the matter. But this is an issue, right? This is a situation that obviously transcends gotcha. It transcends a lot of other... It just transcends, like, gaming, right? Which is what I typically... That's my bread and butter when it comes to my content, right? But this is something that I want to make the time for. Because Tectone is my friend. And he's been one of the best friends that I've had in the space. And so what we're going to be doing is taking the time to see the messages, right? The things that my friend can't say right now. And of course, see what we can do to actually reveal that truth. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead. This is the video that we're going to be watching today. I think I'm going to be speeding it up just a little bit, maybe a 1.25 or a 1.5, simply due to the fact, guys, right, that this is a 53-minute video. But I think this tells you, right, you look at the other videos on Think Before You Sleep's channel, that probably means we're going to be getting into a lot of that misinformation, right? So let's go ahead, let's get it started, get everything figured out, and get this one going.
Tectone went to court today, and he lost the court case against Pink Chu. Tectone, with his 5 lawyers, lost. She had 1, and she won. That's how bad it was. For the next 10 years, Tectone can't own guns and has to pay all of her attorney fees, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thanks, Miskiff. We can always trust you to report things accurately. In case you haven't heard, Twitch streamer Tectone and an ex-girlfriend of his who goes by Pink Chu have been in a legal battle after Pink Chu publicly accused Tectone of sexually assaulting her.
Good intro over here because we all understand what's going on with Miskiff at the moment. And if you're not familiar with some of the situation regarding Miskiff and his ongoing legal matters, well, let me just give you a bit of a quick refresher on where his lawsuit is regarding creators like Emiru and Asmongold. Legal Mindset has a bit of a video already in the works that's been uploaded, or a video that's been in the works that's been uploaded, right? Focused on demon mode, demon time, whatever Miskiff's been doing.
It's time to go for demon time. Yeah, I'ma expose every line.
This guy, Legal Mindset, basically just breaks down the case that Miskiff has and comes to the conclusion that this guy's a idiot. That he's wasting all of his money. He's wasting his lawyer's money because the case that he has of, like, defamation, all of that, Miskiff's getting mad at streamers replaying publicly made statements that he made. Miskiff talks about the fact in this video, right, in the court docs, whatever, talks about the fact that he's been doing, like, a bunch of different drugs, a bunch of different things, hurting the people around him. And he's saying that Asmongold, Emmy, all those people, reacting to those public videos he posted, right? He's saying that's defamation. So Miskiff is like kind of like a fucking... one of the dumbest dudes I've ever seen from like a court legal perspective, because I'm pretty sure you could ask Grok or like ChatGPT and you'd be able to figure out that yourself before spending that much money on lawsuits. Because the take that most people are having is that Asmongold, creators like that, they're going to get themselves out of this one because it's so bullshit really fast. So yeah, that's what we're going to be, that's some of the context on Miskiff over there. Just wanted to provide that, because those are obviously some very strong statements at the start of the video. He's not very well versed in legal matters.
Recently, Pink Chu filed for a protective order, which is to prevent stalking and harassment, and Tectone lost a motion to get it dismissed. Now, before we get into all this, let me just say that I'm not even remotely neutral on whose side I'm on. I started out neutral. I started out with the mindset of, let's take a look at the facts of the case. Maybe there's some nuance here.
That was me as well. And that is actually the very first thing that was suggested to me by people close to Tectone. He wants you to be entirely neutral. He doesn't want you to pick a side, get all of the details, and then pick a side afterwards. That is what he told everybody regarding this matter. That has been the private conversation, phone calls he's had. It has been confirmed everywhere that that was what he said. And one example that I'll use, and I'm not going to be reading too much into this situation over here, Braxophone's public statement. And in this public statement over here, Braxophone does say that that's what Tectone told him, right? to read all the documents, do all of that, and then come to your own conclusion. That is essentially what is listed out over here. Just wanted to mention that. I'm not going to be digging into that one too much. I don't think it's something that either party wants to talk about when it comes to this. So yeah, just an example.
Maybe both parties did something bad at certain points. Usually that's how relationships in particular work.
Guys, there's a reason why when people become exes, their relationship is typically at a lower level than it was prior to them having a relationship. That is usually how amicable breakups are not very common. Where 10Z and K-Day might be trying to convince you that they had an amicable breakup, right? I don't think anyone believes that, especially when you see how much 10Z gave to her.
But my mind changed when I began researching, and I think after you guys watching see the details, you'll come to the same conclusion that I did, which is that this is a massive failure of the justice system.
That was the same conclusion that I came to as well.
Which is why this video is a defense of Tectone. It's about how, in my opinion, none of the assault allegations were true, and it's about how this whole situation was a coordinated effort from multiple streamers to ruin his career.
I know a lot about coordinated efforts from streamers to ruin my career. I don't know what's making me think of that. It's just, maybe it's the fact that there's been like coordination of like potentially fraudulent strikes, a bunch of different misinformation fueled out of context clips dominating the space, being dogpiled. Yeah, I don't know, man. I can't imagine why somebody would be feeling this way. And remember what I said, guys, about becoming a little bit more radicalized after my drama experience? Can you even blame me for wanting to get into a matter like this, knowing what I've gone through the past 2 weeks? Probably not. Hopefully you can understand why we're covering a video like this, because I'm seeing a lot of parallels. Because you want to know something that I've been accused of the past couple of days? Let me show you an accusation that Mr. Pokey made towards me in the past few days. Are you ready for this one? It's gonna be good, bro. Mr. Pokey, a Honkai Star Rail creator, because he has a feud against me, made a thumbnail, guys, that looks like this. Yeah. So I know a lot about potentially false allegations being pushed forward into the public space, and this is over gotcha game takes. This was because I critiqued Arc Knight's Enfield. So yeah.
That being said, Tectone, or John, is a popular Twitch streamer who started out by playing gacha games.
I played Genshin Impact, so you don't have to. So it's Breath of the Wild, but worse, but with waifus. Also, be careful of shit-talking Paimon's English voice acting.
More recently, Tectone is known for calling out how entitled the least talented video game voice actors are, and for helping expose Hassan Piker as an animal abuser.
I was shocked upon hearing the news of...
And this is Pink Chew.
Hey, officer, you ever realize how hard it is to say rough 2 times in a row?
Rough, rough?
Good boy.
Well, that was cringe.
God, it's... Oh, fuck. Something inside me, like, died.
Pink Chew, who also goes by her middle name Ashley, is an OnlyFans creator who's achieved success after getting a very noticeable amount of plastic surgery, followed by a generous use of photo editing tools.
I hope he has proof. He's gonna show the proof, right? Wait, is this the proof? Hey, pay to win, brother. Hey, I can't lie. Yo, yo, this is just like whaling in a gacha game to get the new Genshin outfit and then flex on people in the UGC. That's kind of what it's like, right? You can look better in gacha games too by paying money. So like, of course you can do it in real life. I'm not gonna judge that.
I mean, this is an insane amount of catfishing.
Is that like RTX on and off?
Not even looking at the same person when I compare a live stream to a photo of her. Which brings us to November 20th, 2024, where Pink Chew goes on an alternate account to make a post accusing someone of forcing her into oral sex.
November 20th, 2024. Holy shit, that's a long fucking time ago. That is close to like 16 months ago. So that's a long time for these allegations to be out there. Just saying, right? Around 16 months ago, I think.
And everyone immediately assumed that she was talking about Tectone.
Of course, because she lived at his house and it was kind of obvious from the public streams. We all know the Penacony days of HSR, right? Where Tectone was really into the game. Yeah, like him and Pink were basically seen everywhere when it came to the game. And I think Pink even did like a Wuthering Wave stint as well, because obviously Tectone was really into that too.
If you can believe it, Tectone actually is a piece of shit. His ex-girlfriend, Pinky.
Bro, I don't want to hear Denim saying this, brother. Aren't there like clips of Denims from like back in the day where she's like calling Hassan like a sensitive piece of shit? And like now she's like his #1 defender? Like, bro, I don't want to be hearing shit from like these hypocritical pieces of fucking Bro, like, it's just like you are doing this for money. I know that. Just, it's whatever, bro. I don't want to, like, she's so dumb.
She's come out to speak about his sexual assault against her. How do you know that she's referring to Tectone? Because it's on LSF and they're not following each other anymore.
Okay, great. Thank you for confirming our suspicions. You are, I mean, I'm not going to say she's dumb here because she's spot on. Yeah, no, she's confirming this is going after Tech. Hey, W Denims.
She's referring to this live stream fails post from an anonymous account announcing that Pink Chew was referring to Tectone.
Wait, okay, now we just got the public thread saying it too. All right, so basically, through word of mouth of pretty much every single social media outlet possible, Pink Chew, despite subtweeting, is basically insinuating that, yes, Tech did all these things. This will be important later. Guys, it's a little bit pre-watched because I've read the transcript. It's a little bit pre-watched. This is something that gets denied later on. That, I mean, Your Honor, I was not exactly explicitly referring to Tectone. That's like the general gist of the argument. Just wanted to let you guys know that.
And they're not following each other anymore.
She's referring to this live stream fails post from an anonymous account announcing that Pink Chew was referring to Tectone.
Pre-watched? It's because I read the transcripts.
I mean, there were also obvious context clues like saying
Remember the subtweeting, right?
they live together, and who posts something to a public forum if they believe that the audience isn't going to know who they're talking about. So let's be clear, everybody on the internet knew this was
This is like the, these are the old days that I was talking about where Pink was living with Tech and they were doing like the whole like gotcha thing on the side as well. This was publicly seen a lot.
Tectone, despite her not saying his name in the post. So obviously Tectone had to respond, and he did so at first by not specifically naming who he was talking about.
So if you're confused, you're going to stay confused. Because this shit is not about content for me. I know the person who needs to hear this is going to hear this. And I mean this genuinely. I did everything for you. I helped you with everything. I fixed everything for you. I was there for you like nobody else was there for you in your whole life. Your words, not mine.
Now he does sound
Remember, guys, those are post allegations. Those are post subtweet allegations. I don't think that's a wrong thing to say at all publicly. Some people might try to hold that against him, the fact that he said that. This is after he got subtweeted allegations of crimes.
pretty mad here, which is why people such as Denims interpreted this as a definite confirmation that he was an abuser.
Your words, not mine.
Oh my God.
This is merely a response to the betrayal of somebody who you think that you have been helping or like whatever, right? Whatever's going on, now they're accusing you of horrific crimes.
He even talks like an abuser. Holy shit.
Very glad
Thank you.
Tectone is
It's
such a
generous of you.
dumbass that he doesn't realize how bad this makes him look.
Oh yeah.
It's just ironic hearing that come from Denim's TTS.
The problem is that he has an inflated ego and he's stupid, which is like a horrible combination to have.
Well, that was the projection of the
Is she talking about Hassan there? Did she channel like 2020 Denims for a second and actually direct that at Hassan? I think she did. That's my headcanon.
And though maybe that video out of context was a bad look for Tectone, trust me, as we go over the court transcript, not Mizkif's transcript that his idiot friend wrote.
Mizkif reading this out loud, then seeing the actual transcript, really confirmed to me that this guy has to be like the lowest IQ individual who happens to have a content creation career. I am simply mind blown that there could be one person this dumb to just simply like ask their friend who isn't a court transcriber to do a court transcriber's job. Mizkif, you should have just gotten a former League of Legends player who's used to talking shit in between skill casts and tilt their opponents. That guy would have been able to basically do the transcriber's job, and you don't have to end up with this retarded piece of shit. Unfortunately, you have like the forward-thinking process of like a goddamn... You got the forward-thinking process of like a goddamn biscuit. Like, what? Did you actually... Like, bro, this thing looks like you made it up. It's so unofficial, and it's so shorthand, and it's missing so much stuff. It looks fake.
I mean, the actual court transcripts. So when we go over the real transcript, you're going to understand why Tectone was a little angry there. In fact, I think he was quite polite. That transcript is infuriating knowing that it was used to take someone's First and Second Amendment rights away.
Yep.
For 10 years. Anyway, on November...
Because one of the things about this transcript, guys, is he is not allowed to talk about the situation. Tectone's not allowed to talk about it. And so, even if there are lies, even if there are pieces of misinformation, this is something he can never actually address for 10 years. Bro is basically, right, like strapped to the chair. It's like that Casino Royale scene, right? We all know about that one. Yeah, that's basically what's going on with Tech right now. He's strapped down. And it's unfortunate, but that's why videos like this are coming out. That's why this one's so fucking long. That's why this one took a while to make. I think Before You Sleep was grinding the fuck out of this one to get it going. I think he started on this one right after the transcripts came out. It's just been taking a while. Because, guys, there's a lot of stuff to go through and a lot of misinformation to get sorted out.
November 22nd, 2024, 2 days after Pink Chew makes her allegations, Tectone confirms on Twitter that Pink Chew was talking about him.
Be careful, Mizkif might sue you as well. About that.
He says that she has 2 weeks to apologize and admit that her allegations were false, or he will sue her for what I imagine was defamation.
I think that's fair. Out of respect for our previous relationship, I will give Pink 2 weeks to apologize for these statements and acknowledge that they are false and inaccurate. If this does not happen, I will pursue legal action against Pikachu and those who knowingly repeat her lies with reckless disregard for the truth. There are going to be a lot of people out there that will say that, like, this is like a threat or like extortion. I'm just going to be honest over here. This is more like, hey, can you like stop fucking lying about me?
Citing that he will also pursue legal action against those who knowingly repeat her lies with...
And I'm used to people spreading a fuck ton of lies about you, right? I'm used to people doing that. And I'm also used to an irrational response from other creators in the space when you ask for something perfectly reasonable. Yeah, I've got personal history with that.
Reckless disregard for the truth. Tectone goes on to say that he's willing to work with law enforcement and is ready to prove his innocence.
And guess what? Here's a fact, guys. Law enforcement, police, who's not in jail? Who's not in jail? Tectone is not in jail. He does not have a criminal charge. There is no criminal case.
And then Keemstar comments with some words of wisdom at the end, which brings us to Travis County in Texas on January 23rd of 2026.
I hope he gets into the context of Travis County.
And a hearing for a protective order filed by Linda Ashley Lamar, that's Pinkchu, against John Robertson, that's Tectone.
Tectone with his 5 lawyers.
Miskiff, this is why I think you're retarded. Because there's only 1 on the transcript, so how is there 5? Bro, how are you this dumb? Like, you got such a basic piece of information wrong, and it calls into question your entire analysis over all of these stupid-ass videos that you made. And I'm just gonna be real here, Miskiff. How the fuck are you pulling views? I'm just gonna be real here. Oh my god. Obviously, he was farming the Tectone situation a lot, but, like, it calls into question every single thing this guy is saying regarding the matter when he got information regarding the number of lawyers wrong. And bro, his channel looks like Mr. Pokies. What the fuck happened? I guess the subscribers aren't real argument is true for this guy too. Him and Mr. Pokey are like the same CC. 1 million for him, 200k for Pokey, and they still get like 1,000 views a video. Miskiff is Mr. Pokey. Holy shit. Ms. Kiyasu, bro. Ms. Kiyasu. Damn, that's wild, bro. God, shit. It's the same photo.
Tectone and his 1 lawyer, that's 1 lawyer, Miskiff. I don't know why you would lie about something that was so easy to disprove.
I'm smart. I'm not going live and...
Stop lying. Nah. Why are you lying? I'm smart. You mixed up 1 for 5. Dude, like, kindergartners do better than that.
Saying things that are stupid. I'm not going live and being not strategic with my words and my actions. I'm being smart.
Why you always lying?
Miskiff sent a friend of his to go to court and take notes on the day of the hearing. Seems like the information wasn't very accurate. So Tectone's 1 lawyer is Joffrey Purrier, a guy with an enviable jawline, and Pinkchu's lawyer is Michelle Locke, an aspiring self-help influencer.
Life is a journey. Life has ups and downs.
Very insightful words of wisdom. Last, the case is being heard by...
This guy is funny as fuck, bro.
Judge Dimple Malhotra.
Yeah, Snakes Before You Sleep is funny as shit, bro. This guy's fucking funny.
Just for clarification, this is a civil case. Conveniently, a lot of these types of...
Wait, her name is Dimple? Interesting.
...allegations seem to be tried in civil courts, probably because the burden of...
Why would you name your kid Dimple? Like, is her sister's name like Belly Button? And like the brother's name is like Elbow? And like the third cousin is like Cheekbone? That's crazy.
Proof there is much lower than in criminal courts.
I want you to understand something, chat. That the judge agreed with...
Is this Mike from PA, bro? Dude, this guy genuinely makes me think that like somebody went back in time to like capture a Neanderthal and raise them in the present. That's what this guy makes me think. That like we actually do have time travel.
That. Now the judge was not empowered to...
I'm gonna get canceled for this, aren't I? I'm playing with fire right now, aren't I?
Put him in prison directly because that was not a criminal case. Had it been a criminal case and had he been given a bench trial, he would have gone to prison as a rapist, right?
Nah, he is giving me mad Neanderthal vibes though. Again, just my personal opinion.
Then.
God, these...
Based off his conduct and appearance.
Idiots are annoying. For those of you who don't know, Mike from PA is the guy who pretended to be a licensed attorney to run for the Pennsylvania legislature.
You might get canceled for calling that judge's name weird. I mean, I said her name is a body part, so I'm just wondering if the rest of her family's named after body parts. I think it's legitimate ask.
But the state Supreme Court kicked him off the ballot.
Is that not fair?
After they found him misrepresenting himself. Now he's pretending to be an authority.
I'm just wondering.
On the law on Twitch. Spoilers, most of the law influencers get shit wrong all the time, and they aren't really that trustworthy. Anyway, in reality, there was a police investigation, but it
Very true.
didn't go anywhere, let alone prosecute. So Pink Shoe claimed that she would put a pause on pressing criminal charges because she was afraid of Tectone retaliating, which I don't believe because he publicly said he would cooperate with the police.
Yeah, I know what it's like when there's a woman on the other side of the argument and they say that there's going to be something wrong with what the solution is, and so they can't do it. It just, I don't know what it is. It just happens all the time where you offer a solution to them and then they like hear it, and then because it came from you, it's no longer a solution anymore. Do you guys know what I mean? Like, it's a viable solution that they would have taken, but because you suggested it and they're mad at you, it's not a solution anymore. You know what I mean?
And also, if Pink Shoe was actually afraid, she wouldn't have continued to attack Tectone legally. Personally, I think the only reason that a protective order was filed is because she wants to attack him, and there's no way in hell that she would have won a criminal case. Now, just so it's less confusing, and because there's no video of this hearing, as we go over the transcript, I'll put pictures on the side of who is talking.
Okay.
That being said, Pink Shoe's...
Great. I think that's probably one of the big reasons for why this took so long. It is hard to get the full information from these transcripts and put it into video form.
Lawyer starts her opening statement by blaming Pink Shoe's lack of evidence to corroborate her story on the fact that she's autistic.
I'm sorry. Is a TLDR of that statement, I'm too retarded to bring proof? That is the TL, I'm too retarded to have any proof. What a case. Damn, what a fantastic implementation of justice, ladies and gentlemen. The opening statement of the case is, my client is too mentally disabled to have proof of any of these allegations. Bro, this shit is cooked. Bro, this shit is fucking cooked. Oh my god. Like, even within the first... This is a crazy... Hey, yo, this is a crazy part of the transcript to get into first, bro. I'm gonna be so for real with you.
Pink Shoe's primary argument here is that, as a person who was nearly 30 at the time, she didn't realize that she was being abused until someone else told her.
Bro, she's older than me. What? Dude, what? You can't baby somebody that's fucking 30? Bro, she's 30! What? What is this?
She's very slightly autistic. What, did they take that argument from TikTok? So anyway, you know, if there's like a mountain of evidence showing that this was all consensual, well, just ignore that because Pink Shoe changed her mind after the breakup.
And we have an activist judge, huh?
And after Tectone got into a relationship with a different...
And we got a spurred ex-girlfriend, huh?
...woman. What a convenient set of circumstances.
By the way, Sophia is amazing. I've had the opportunity to meet her in real life when I went down to Austin before. Sophia is one of, like, the nicest people I've ever met. Never been happier for Tech, and I'm pretty sure that she's one of the main reasons for why this man has not lost his fucking sanity. I think she is his rock during this storm, during this whatever. A lot of credit to her for what's been going on.
That being said, let's go to the first allegation of assault. Pink Shoe said that she had recently gotten breast implants, so this is a plastic surgery-related allegation. I'm going to redact some of this information to make it YouTube safe, but the page numbers are all there, so you can just look it up for yourself. Basically, the allegation was that Pink Shoe could not perform because of her recent surgery, so Tectone found other non-consensual means, allegedly.
Much love to this queen. I mean, seriously, I'm sorry that you had to go through all of that, and then probably get traumatized all...
Kaya's not in the shot because Hassan didn't want people to get confused with who he was calling queen. Yeah, Hassan made sure to get Kaya out of the shot because, obviously, he didn't want people to get confused and think he was calling Kaya his queen. Because how the fuck could he say that after the treatment that he showed, right?
Together one more time in the court process, but at least now you have a moment of respite.
To further elaborate on the context here, Pink Shoe testifies that she had been living with Tectone in exchange for sexual favors. Personally, I don't believe this version of the story at all. After reading through the transcript, it is very clear to me that they were living together.
LOL, flat out admitting she lied during her testimony with her lawyer. I mean, you guys were a couple, is that fair? Yes. At some point following that message to John, you entered into a romantic relationship.
Because they were in a relationship.
So is it a transaction or is it a relationship? Because what's one thing people in relationships do, guys? Hey, you want to move in with me? And part of a relationship, ladies and gentlemen, is doing certain things. And if you don't do those things, that's one of the big reasons for why people break up. Yeah, that's how it works. And so some could say, guys, right, that if parts of the relationship that make it a relationship aren't happening and the relationship's over, then maybe your agreement that they live with you is also over. Because the relationship is over. It's not that crazy. It's not that wild to think about. And the thing is, most people have gone through it. And that's why most people that read this document are like, okay, this makes no fucking sense. This transcript is ridiculous. This case is ridiculous.
Reference, Pink Shoe and Tectone's relationship started in December of 2022.
We're going to have so much use of that sax music for this react. Because there's no BGM for this, so I can put in whatever I want.
and they broke up around June or July of 2024. About a month later, in July or August, Tectone meets his now fiancée, Sophia, and a few months later, in November, Pingchu accuses
So happy that they're engaged. After this, hey, Techie, you gotta invite me to the wedding, bro. After this, right? Come on.
Tectone of sexual assault.
Please.
Which brings us to the second allegation. Again, pictures are here to indicate who is in the conversation. If you see a Q, though, that means a lawyer is talking, and if you see an A, that's going to be either Tectone or Pingchu talking. Anyway, Pingchu said that she had just gotten lip filler, and Tectone had forced her into oral sex, which had ruined the lip filler. Geez, another plastic surgery-related incident? Do all of her allegations have some sort of plastic surgery involved?
Wait, you're right. The first one was entirely centered around her implants. And now this one, right after another, is centered around that. When easily, guys, anyone who's had plastic surgery knows, after the procedure, you look injured because you induced trauma upon your body to get the surgery. Everyone knows that. Every person that has gotten plastic surgery or knows about it, you look beat up after any procedure. It's a fact.
Now, is there any corroborating evidence that this happened?
Why do you know that? Because I'm an educated individual that does more than play fucking gacha games all day.
Not really. There may have been a doctor's appointment where she had to get the lip filler fixed.
And your mother gets plastic surgery very often.
However, that doesn't prove anything because she could have just as easily screwed up the filler through regular consensual activity or something else entirely. But these are pretty much the allegations of assault. Now, when I say that Pingchu had no evidence of this stuff occurring, understand that her own testimony counts as evidence from a legal standpoint.
Perhaps past testimonies as well.
So allow me to clarify what I mean. I'm saying she had no additional evidence to verify the truth of her story. And let me point out just how ridiculous this is. Tectone is a guy who is constantly on camera.
There's like a good 8 to 10 people who have already said, he didn't do it. We know he didn't do it. We were there when they said it happened. That never happened. They say there's a third girl. They don't exist. They don't realize that.
He's talking about the past roommates and the past housemates that he had across the entire tenure of his relationship with Pikachu.
The entirety of, well, a large portion of my house is fucking filmed on the inside of security cameras on the inside. That's how fucking paranoid I am.
This is a guy who streams for multiple hours a day, plus the couple streams that he did with Pingchu. You're going to tell me that you have no footage, no audio recordings, and no text that make him look abusive or make him look like a stalker?
That's true, right? I mean, he is everywhere all the time, and you would assume that there's at least one VOD clip, right? One something. At least a shred, 10 seconds of video. But there's nothing because they use the excuse, remember, Pingchu's lawyer said, Your Honor, my client is literally too mentally disabled to bring any proof. That was the case. She's too mentally disabled to have any proof. Bro, that's like, I'm gonna be real, it sounds like the weaponization of retardation. Like, you can actually be so dumb that, like, your claims are true because you're dumb? Fuck, man.
You also have no testimony from other witnesses saying that Tectone was abusing you? This is despite the fact that there were 2 roommates living with them the entire time. So either Tectone is this master manipulator who can get away with all of this without a trace, which is a...
Hey, let's hear some claims from Captain Cabinets on what type of manipulator Tectone is. Because this is unfortunately a narrative that gets corroborated by a lot of CCs, even like now in the space. And it's just, I guess it's just very disappointing for me to even see like narratives like this, that he's just corrupting smaller creators, getting them all on his side, right? Even close friends like Captain Cabinets are fucking doing that to him still, or they're supposed to be close friends. Just listen to this shit.
People that appreciate him, because during this time, Tectone needed allies.
Let's listen to this.
Right. I'm real. Tectone needed allies on his side, and that's kind of how like this kind of whole went around. I think Saint is probably going to do the same thing. He's probably going to prey on smaller creators and try and get them in his circle and like own them, so they'll do his kind of bidding. That's what I predict will happen next. Is he'll have fucking no one, because no one fucking thinks this guy is worth a fucking shred of dignity or anything.
She's talking about tech
and
here.
Instead he'll go for smaller creators and try and like manipulate them and groom them into being like part of his like group.
She calls him a manipulator and a groomer. Isn't that just the same fucking narrative that's been spun by his worst fucking enemies? The ones that are calling him an assaulter? That are calling him a criminal? She's repeating the same goddamn narratives. I could not even imagine that. There's a reason why, ladies and gentlemen, I call Miss Captain Cabinets Frogan's S1.
The weird thing to argue, because his opposition is constantly calling him stupid.
When he's literally I don't know how anyone fucking ever listened to this guy.
He's dumb as I honestly think he needs to be...
Bro, why is Mike from PA calling people dumb?
Arrested just so he could experience what that is like, so he shuts the fuck up and goes away.
I genuinely don't understand how someone could be so fucking stupid to think that this is a good response.
Bro, guys, I feel like the collective IQ of those streamers combined is like actually 67.
So either he is this master manipulator who can fool anyone, or none of this shit happened, in my opinion. On that note, Pink Chu's lawyer has finished questioning her client, so let's go to cross-examination from Tectone's lawyer, Joffrey.
I feel bad for this guy, because the amount of jokes that have been made about how bad this guy is at his job following the case and the details is unfortunate. I've gotten so many comments where people are saying, make sure you get a lawyer, but not Tectone's. I feel bad for him, man.
Before we get into this, though, it requires some backstory. For those of you who didn't know, Tectone was previously married for like 10 years to a woman whose name is Jessica. They divorced a while back. Now, to me, the details here are kind of murky because an NDA was signed, and I only really have the court transcript to piece together what was going on. But remember how I said that Tectone has cameras everywhere? Well, it turns out that his ex-wife still had remote access to the cameras after the divorce.
Yeah, this was weird.
And allegedly, she was using some intimate footage between Tectone and Pink Chu to blackmail them. And how this didn't land his ex-wife in jail is beyond me.
I'm gonna be so for real here. Yeah, like, this is crazy once you think about it. She basically hacked or got access to his internal home cameras, recorded sexual acts between Tectone and Pink, and then started sending them to people. I don't know how you don't go to jail after that for sure, but it like, hey, Travis County, right?
Anyway, a lawsuit was filed, and a part of this—
Hey, that's the power of Travis County, baby.
Lawsuit included Pink Chu suing Tectone's ex-wife because she called her Tectone's sex slave. Let me repeat this. Pink Chu sued his ex-wife because she accused her of being victimized by Tectone.
So, Pink Chu was spreading the narrative during the most recent trial that Tectone is a manipulator, blah, 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 does all of that. But in her previous trial with Freem, she said there was no manipulation, any of that involved. Okay, so we have basically flip-flopped from court documents, court statements that we made in the Freem case, and we have done a complete 180 on them right after Tectone breaks up with us. So Tectone breaks up with Pink, and then she does a 180 within a month. A 180 within the month on every single... Remember, these statements were given under oath. These statements were given and made under oath, by the way. And if you lie in these, you're subject to perjury, which is a crime.
Pink Chu said it was defamatory to call her an abuse victim. Not only that, but this lawsuit occurs 1 month after her alleged incidents of abuse, and she says these claims about her from Tectone's ex-wife were disgusting lies. What a weird thing to say, right? So that's our first counter to Pink Chu's story, and just right there...
That should probably be enough to blow a hole wide open in this, right? But there's still 40 minutes left of the fucking video somehow. Well, so let's see what happens.
Throw the case out. You mean to tell me that someone called her an abuse victim and she spent money suing them to say, no, I'm not? The second part of this is that Pink...
She spent money on a defamation case, which costs money. You have to prove damages and do all of this. It's not a very easy trial to sue somebody for defamation. Otherwise, I might have done it by now, right? Considering the thumbnails you've seen about me. If it was easy to sue for defamation and cheap and, like, not an effort, guys... The thing is, I have to prove damages here, but my channel is the best it's ever been. How can I have a defamation case when all of my metrics, revenue, all of that growth is all up? I can't, because I have to prove damages. So, like, even though this is defamatory, you know what I mean? It's rough. It's hard. And I'm saying, you need to go through a lot. I'm talking about from personal experience. You need to go through a lot to have a defamation case.
Pink Chu went to a mental hospital in July of 2024, around 1 to 2 months after the alleged victimizations. When she's being questioned by her lawyer, she states that she went to the hospital because she just had to get out of the house. And if your first thought was, that makes no sense, then I would agree with you.
Wait, sorry. How long were you at Austin Oaks? I do believe that is a mental institution. 3 days. So what was the reason you went? I just needed to go for a walk, so I went to the mental health institute. Sorry, is that what it says here? Wait, I just needed to leave the house? That's why I went to a mental hospital?
This sounds like a lie. Now, I'm...
Could have fooled me.
Not a fan of Illymation, but I do think she has a very insightful video on mental hospitals. People don't go to mental hospitals just because they wanted to get out of the house. They go because they're either a danger to others or they're afraid of harming themselves.
Yeah.
Facilities like this save lives every day. There are 2 types of admission. The first is voluntary, which is where you go to the emergency room and say, hi, I don't feel safe. Can you please help me? And the second is involuntary, which is where your doctor or psychiatrist feels you're at grave risk to yourself or others.
Oh, and I think the lack of specification, in my opinion, not answering that clearly means it was the latter. I am going to, as a rational-minded myself, right, I'm going to assume it was the latter, and this was an involuntary one. And that is why there are so many odd details surrounding the actual reason. So I do believe this could be obviously, right, I think it's a hidden lie, but I think Pink could have potentially just committed perjury here by lying under oath.
So they write you a note and send you to the hospital.
Potentially. That's just my opinion seeing this.
So it's a weird downplay from Pink Chu to say that she just needed to get out of the house.
Because I don't buy the idea. I just needed a breath of fresh air. That's why I was committed to a mental institution. I needed a breath of fresh air. I don't really buy that. That seems really odd to me. But once again, this case opened with the statement from the lawyer. My client, paraphrase by the way, but it's accurate. It's an accurate paraphrase. My client is too mentally disabled to have any proof for this case. You're just going to have to take her word for it. Remember, guys, that was the opening statement from Pink Chu's lawyer.
If she wanted to do that, she could have just checked herself into a hotel or something. Note that Pink Chu has more than enough money to do this. Also note that this admission into a mental hospital seems to have happened directly after Tectone broke up with her, so I'm guessing that the breakup caused thoughts of self-harm.
But of course, that's not what you see being said in the transcripts, so the mental health institution thing lined up right after the breakup. And then afterwards, we do a 180 on. We do a complete 180 on statements that we made under oath a year ago.
Actually, it looks like the redactions here suggest something a little bit worse than self-harm. So honestly, I think checking herself into the mental hospital was a psychological...
Oh, wait, did they talk about it? I remember seeing a lot of redacted parts. Yeah, the redactions just make this look more specific, or more suspicious. I'm sorry. Especially after I heard the very, very obvious dodging that went on with that question, I just needed some fresh air. Yeah, the redactions over here aren't looking good.
A little bit worse than self-harm. So honestly, I think checking herself into the mental hospital was a psychologically healthy thing to do.
Absolutely.
However, the issue with this hospital visit is that it works as evidence against her story of abuse. Let me start by saying that when she's being questioned by her lawyer, Pink Chu said that after she got back from Austin Oaks, the mental hospital, she moved in with her mom, but as she was getting her stuff from Tectone's house, she told a roommate of his about how afraid she was of Tectone. Now, anytime you go to the hospital or see a doctor, they're going to ask you, why are you here? Surely if Tectone was so abusive that she just had to get out of the house, and she had to tell his roommate how afraid she was, she would have also told the doctors, well, you see, I have this really abusive ex-boyfriend. But she didn't do that. In fact...
True. What's one thing that happens in these institutions? Well, they ask people questions about why they're feeling this way, and if they do feel like they were criminally caused incidents, then they will, like, you know, go call the police, call the authorities, and have them come over and, like, do it and perhaps start an investigation. That is, guys, when somebody comes to the hospital injured, guys, I come to the hospital with a bullet wound. Here. The doctors are going to ask how I got shot. Then the police are going to come over and ask, how did you get shot? It's very easy to assume that a mental health institution will ask, why do you want to XYZ? Why do you want to do something in Minecraft?
The doctors specifically asked her if she had been a victim of abuse. Pink Chu says yes, but she doesn't mention Tectone. She mentions a prior non-Tectone relationship.
I messed this up a slight bit due to bad memory and the confusing nature of the transcript. Pink Chu mentions 2 instances of assault. Once here as a child, and the second time on page 147 from an ex-boyfriend 6 years ago. I know which ones he's talking about. I'll be able to provide the clarification.
Keep in mind that the time period where she's alleging the abuse happened was 1 or 2 months before she goes to the mental hospital in July. Also keep in mind that
she brings up multiple instances in this trial, for some reason, of her 2 previous instances where she was, I don't want to use the word, right? Let's just say it's the word over here that Mr. Pokey's deciding to use to represent me with no proof or evidence at all. That's what happened to her. And obviously, it's unfortunate. It's terrible that it occurred, but I'm not necessarily sure why it was brought up in this trial. And you can see there's some very confusing verbiage and wording. Tectone's lawyer has to clarify that they're talking about her old boyfriend and not Tectone when describing the incidents.
Pink Chu testified that she told Tectone's roommate 3 or so days.
Let me go bring that up, actually. I think that's actually a bit of a big miss because it does show. I'm gonna have to call out Think Before You Sleep because I think that is a kind of a major fuck up.
He had told me, he asked me if I could help him when I was in the bathroom. We went to the bathroom. He then pulled down my pants and raped me as I cried and told him no.
And this is the part I'm talking about here.
Boyfriend when you were in your 20s. So this is not Tectone. So let me be very clear. Not Tectone.
This is what I meant by, why was this even mentioned in Tectone's case? Like this thing, and like we have to start clarifying Tectone is not the one that did this because the verbiage and the wording is so unclear, right? She just is using like he and he and he. And so naturally, right, because there's no specifics being used, the lawyer has to clarify this is not Tectone that she's talking about here. That is what I'm going to call a bit of a kind of a fuck up from Think Before You Sleep here. Because I think that is like, that leans even more into, why is that stuff even brought up? And it's like, part of me is wondering, how is that related to the active case? To me, it seems like something that should have been like, objection! Relevance? To me, at least. I'm not a lawyer.
Days after this questioning from the mental hospital, or around the same time, that she was afraid of Tectone, noting that his roommate did not come in to testify on her behalf. She can't even get that corroborated. So I don't see how this can be considered as anything other than crucial evidence that Pink Chu is making all of these allegations up.
And make sure to spice it up with some very vague wording that needs to be clarified by a lawyer to know who you're actually referring to. And that's the proof. I told y'all I saw the transcripts, guys.
Now, her argument for why she didn't report to the mental hospital that she had been assaulted by Tectone is because she just didn't see it that way at the time. But again, immediately after she gets out of the hospital to collect her stuff, she tells Tectone's roommate about how scared she is. Conveniently, this change of story happens in a place where it couldn't be documented as evidence.
Despite all the cameras Tech has in his house, right?
Because, you know, if you were an abuse victim who was fleeing your house...
Right, the cameras that he always talks about having.
...because you're afraid of your ex-boyfriend, certainly you would want to tell medical staff later so it could be used as evidence in a police investigation.
Yeah, because if you're scared of the person's house that you're living at and all of your stuff is at their house and you've admitted that you're scared, why would you not call the police, have them escort you to pick up your stuff if you're scared of the person that you are getting your things from? That is a thing that happens in almost every single domestic dispute when somebody moves out. The woman can call the police and have them escort her to grab her things and leave the household. But that didn't happen, right?
This is why I don't believe anything that...
But remember, right? The excuse from the lawyer was, my client is too mentally disabled to bring proof. And so, from that logic, you can say my client was too mentally disabled to do the thing that every person would do. My client has an excuse for acting with complete irrationality for everything. It's indefensible once you think about it, right? My client is like too mentally disabled to do things normally, and so you're just gonna have to trust them with everything because they're...
Pink Chu says, there are tons of holes in her story and really nothing to defend her outside of taking her word for it. But that's not all. Before Pink Chu goes to the mental hospital, there are text messages between her and Tectone, where Tectone, or John, says, text me when you're on your way, and please be safe. And then she tells him what hospital she's going to be at. He also says, if you need me, just text me. I'm sorry you're going through this. So when I read stuff like that, I think,
yeah, that sounds like somebody that just witnessed somebody have a psychotic break after telling them that they're going to break up and then trying to obviously not cut them off completely because they know they just had a psychotic break.
Wow, there was so much documented evidence of Tectone being supportive, but when it comes to him being abusive, you just have to take people's word for it.
And remember, the abusive claims come from, hey, some kind of assault happened right after I got surgery, and it's just both times the assault only happens right after my surgeries.
Isn't that odd? This is like no case of abuse that I've ever seen. Abusive people usually leave evidence everywhere because they can't help themselves.
And the only evidence that she would have is saying that XYZ went wrong with the procedure and that she was like bruised or whatever, but that is just a natural outcome of plastic surgery. Anyone who's gotten it will tell you bruising, damage, looking bad the first couple of days afterwards is just a natural part of plastic surgery too.
We're not done yet. Pink Chu and Tectone's lawyer Joffrey discuss her leaving the mental hospital, and there's this part where Joffrey says, in fact, I believe he's listed, and the rest is blacked out. Judging by the context clues, I'm guessing that he's saying that Tectone was listed as an emergency contact, considering that Tectone said stuff like, if you need anything, let me know, and Pink Chu told him what hospital she was going to be at.
He was the emergency contact?
So again, extremely weird behavior here, especially considering that Pink Chu communicates that her mom lives somewhere in the area, so why is she using her alleged abuser that she's afraid of as a contact instead of her mom?
Because she was taking up her stuff from Tech's place to go to her mom, apparently, but like she didn't list her mom as her emergency contact.
Moving on, let's talk about why a protection order was granted. In Texas, in order to get a protection order, the standard of proof is reasonable to believe. This is kind of a major issue for me when it comes to family court, and I think the law around this needs to be modified to prevent abuse, especially in cases like Tectone's where there is tons of counter evidence to his accuser's story.
And the evidence on Pink's side is, Your Honor, my client is too mentally disabled to have prepared any proof at all for this, so you're going to have to take her word for it.
Reasonable to believe is a very low standard. It's like saying if one person thinks, yeah, that could have happened, that's enough to grant an order in Texas. This standard is even lower than the more likely than not to have happened standard, which is what we're all used to hearing.
I'm just going to be honest, that is uncounterable. You just say, I'm too dumb to have any proof, so I'll just make a bunch of shit up, and like, they just had to believe it because I've already made the case I'm too dumb to have any proof.
about in civil court cases.
This is in Texas. I want to say this again. This is not California. This is not New York. This is not Illinois. This is not Massachusetts. This is Texas.
What was he trying to make a point with over there? Was he trying to flex that like he knew like 5 different state names? I think those are the only 5 states that Mike from PA knows. I don't think Mike from PA even knows that PA stands for Pennsylvania.
He's implying that it's impossible to get an order of protection in Texas when actually it seems to be fairly easy. Here's Michelle Locke, Pink Chew's lawyer, on her podcast, saying that the standard of proof in these kinds of courts is very low.
When it comes to marriage and there are abusive instances, how important is it for someone to have that documented?
Your testimony alone can be enough. And people think, well, really? I don't have to have pictures or bruises? I mean, while those things would be great and helpful, it's not a requirement because judges every day make decisions based on the credibility of witnesses.
Okay, so you can just make shit up. So this is Pink's lawyer basically saying, confirming live on a podcast, you can just make shit up and it's fine. As long as you're believable enough, you can just make shit up. Proof? Don't need it. It'd be great if we have proof, but don't need it. Nah. What Tectone said before, yeah, no, this is just a vibe check. No, it's literally confirmed from Pink's lawyer herself. Civil court is a vibe check in Texas. The lawyer themselves is telling you, you don't need proof. If you look credible enough, vibe check, you can be convicted. Bro. Oh, she is gonna regret that so much. Oh my lord, guys. It just happens so often, right? Where these people don't realize the things they've said publicly, and it comes back to bite them. Because this is gonna blow a hole in this entire situation. She just said you can make shit up. You don't need proof. It's good if you have it, but not necessary. Wow. That's another, I guess, Tectone was just right.
And that's the bottom line. And so the court's gonna look at what you say, what he or she says, and then make the call.
It's just he said or she said, a vibe check. It gets worse. Wait, she just keeps digging a bigger hole.
On whether it's a believable story.
Let me remind
on whether it's believable. Remember, guys, she used the word believable, not true. She used the word believable, not true. I wonder why she used believable instead of true. Wow, that's a crazy statement from the lawyer of that case, right? I'm gonna go take a piss. BRB. So we just got the confirmation from Pink's lawyer herself that civil court in Texas, right, is entirely just a vibe check. And it's based off of he said, she said, and whether or not it's believable, not the truth. That is something we have confirmed from that podcast with Pink's lawyer. So yeah, that's where we just came back from.
That Mike from PA is not a lawyer. He's an idiot propagandist who
traveled forward in time. Just my opinion, by the way.
Really seems to have his own boundary issues with women. Just because guns are more legal.
Wait, that's Mike from PA?
Propagandist who really seems to have his own boundary issues with women.
Ooh, keep those mitts to yourself, oh brother. Keep those mitts to yourself, buddy. The fuck? I don't think anyone on Earth wants to get touched by those.
Just because guns are more legal in Texas doesn't mean that this state always favors the right. A lot of bullshit occurs in Texas too. Also, this legal battle between Pink Chew and Tectone occurred in Travis County, which is where Austin is. Austin is like the California of Texas. But anyway, Pink Chew still has to prove that—
Can confirm, Austin is the California of Texas. It's like the Bay Area of Texas.
That there is some sort of reason to believe that Tectone will be a danger to her. Before we go into this next section, I would like to point out that neither Michelle Locke or the judge really have a grasp over how social media works. Pink Chew's lawyer Michelle said in the transcripts that she doesn't really understand social media, and in this video that I found of the judge, she openly states that she doesn't really have an interest in being online.
For me, I didn't even have social media, by the way, until I knew that I had to run.
Okay, so this is very important because essentially all of Pink Chew's evidence for why she needs an order of protection and why Tectone is an ongoing threat is because of his social media posts.
I do think that judges have a responsibility to recuse themselves if they have no fucking idea the context of the case. That's my take, at least.
And if you as a judge don't understand social media, you're going to miss a ton of nuance. It's actually to the point where this court decision is quite scary and possibly a strong violation of the First Amendment. Personally, I think Pink Chew has taken advantage of the judge's lack of knowledge of social media and using that to lie.
That's what it seems like to me, too.
To talk about that, let's go to Exhibit 16, I think. This post from Tectone is still live, so I'll just show the actual tweet. It says, "Another OnlyFans woman lying about rape, then just moves on. No damage done to them. Ruin a man's life for 3 years. Why is this so common?" This is from October 21st of 2025, nearly a year after Tectone was accused, and he's signal boosting a post talking about a friend of his from OTK, who I guess was falsely accused.
I don't think that there's like a final confirmation on it, so I don't want to be caught spreading misinformation. All I know is that the case has been dropped and there was no settlement, which does send a bit of a strong message by itself, right?
I don't know that situation too well, but
so that'll be my factual statement on the matter. That's what factually happened, and I think most people can come to their own conclusion based off of that, right?
That's what's being talked about. Pinkchu says that she believes that the tweet was about her, and then she says that Tectone makes posts like this to try to get his fans to attack her because she does OnlyFans, which is retarded because if you look at the comments on the tweet, you can see that people aren't talking about Pinkchu. You can't even find her name by doing a text search on the page.
I hear voices in my head!
In fact, you can't see this in the court transcript, but since this tweet is still live, we know who Tectone is referring to in this tweet because he's quote tweeted a post talking about Azalea Lexi. So how in the hell is this comment about Pinkchu? By the way, this is in stark difference to her allegation post, where the top comment essentially is saying, hey, you're talking about Tectone, right? The irony here is that Pinkchu herself made the argument in court that people wouldn't know who she's talking about because Tectone's name wasn't mentioned in her tweet.
So this is where I said the whole subtweeting from Pinkchu was really gonna bite her in the ass. Because the big thing about her, right, was the fact that she was trying to say here, I'm not actually referring to John when I made those claims on Twitter. It's just a coincidence that every single person said his fucking name. And Denims did it too, and Livestream Fails did it too, and all of that. Yeah, but that wasn't my intent, though. That's what this reads as.
But if you know anything about the internet, the minute you start vague posting like this, tons of people in the comments are going to start asking, oh my god, who is she talking about? Which will prompt all the know-it-alls to try to be the first person to say that it's Tectone. In fact, here's me doing this with the false allegations against Turkey Tom.
Imagine you get falsely accused, and when you get to defend yourself by showing a bunch of texts from your ex, talking about how, don't want to get another community strike, so I'm not going to read that out loud.
You can see that I don't mention Tom in the post. People are asking who I'm talking about, and if you scroll through the comments, you can see several people explaining the reference. This is not like a secret behavior that people have. Anytime some sort of inside joke or a test question is posted on social media, tons of people go to the comment section looking for the person who will explain everything.
Yep.
So in my opinion, Pinkchu...
Because people on the internet are dumb and they need somebody else's summary conclusion to come to a matter because they're dumb. Why do you think I called so many of the CCs that we saw before dumb?
Left Tectone's name out of this post
because they didn't think for themselves.
To prevent a defamation lawsuit, but left in enough clues for people to easily figure out who she was talking about, so her followers would say who it was for her. If she only wanted her friends to know about these allegations like she said in court, she wouldn't have posted it on social media.
My opinion is that subtweeting is one of the most unimaginably dumb things that has come in this day and age. Subtweeting to me is basically just a sign that you have poor mental health. If you're somebody that actively subtweets all the fucking time, you just get a fucking diary. Like figure it out.
Anyway, back to Tectone. Here's where it gets scary.
Relevant example over here for you guys. There's this content creator out here, right? And I know I'm bringing in some of my own personal stuff. It'll be fast though. This is an example of the type of guy that just really has no idea what they're doing anymore with their social media. Bro's out here making posts mentioning his family and shit. Saying, he says a statement, he's burnt practically every bridge and has 0 friends. He's been tweeting about me like this for days. Then he starts bitching and moaning when I comment on the fact that he's bringing his family into beef. Living in Japan with a wife and daughter that love me. It's just these guys need therapy. Because, what is even going on here? This is why I just, quote, retweet him. And I'm just complain about CC, talking about family. Repeatedly make hit piece tweets about CC, mentioning your family. It's not real, bro. It seems fake. Like a mental asylum, bro.
Remember that the order of protection was granted, meaning that Tectone is not allowed to talk about Pinkchu. Her evidence that this tweet was about her was purely on the basis of Tectone bringing up OnlyFans.
Yep, the protection order was live, so he was not really allowed to mention her name. And so, I guess the case she was trying to build was that he was implicitly trying to shame her for what she does by talking about the situation with Rich Campbell. The world does not revolve around you, but you will think that way if you're a bitter, jealous ex. And you'll think that whatever the person says about you moving forward, or whatever the person says, even if it's not tangentially related to you, you're going to think it is because you're obsessed. That's genuinely how it is in the bad breakups where the girl doesn't want to break up, but the guy does. That's just how it works.
And because she does OnlyFans, she actually makes this argument several times. Here's another one, Exhibit 20. This tweet is also still alive, so I'll just bring it up. He's asking for OnlyFans models to stop giving life advice because you can see them naked for less than a Fortnite battle pass.
I mean, that's just funny. I'm sorry. That's just funny. Because...
her dignity? Oh, I don't know. I heard she's selling it for $5.
That is less than a Fortnite's battle pass, so that's factually confirmed. There are OnlyFans models out there that are selling those pictures for less than a Fortnite battle pass. So this is just a factual statement.
This is another post where if you scroll down, you can see that nobody is talking about Pinkchu, yet she is suggesting that these posts are targeted at her and designed to train Tectone's audience into hating her.
I think this might be due to the fact that Rich Campbell, an associate of his, had the case dropped. And so he's probably like, oh, I've seen how this guy's rich life got ruined over the past couple of years because of this. And so he's now taking a stance against those types of creators that have weaponized such situations before.
Now, if you were a judge who doesn't use social media that much, you would think, oh, well, that makes sense. Obviously, he's only mentioning OnlyFans because Pinkchu does OnlyFans.
I see. And that's where the lack of knowledge from the judge and her lack of recusal is really making some damage here.
Why would anybody else talk about that? Except talking about OnlyFans girls is an entire meta of content creation that has existed for years. And I don't know, maybe it has something to do with people like Morgpie trying to bend Twitch's rules so she can show her boobs to 13-year-olds and try to get them addicted to pornography.
That's probably a bigger issue than anything we're seeing, right?
Maybe some of these women deserve to be criticized, so citing these posts as threats and possibly suggesting that Tectone can never talk about OnlyFans because of the order of protection, I think is a massive violation of the First Amendment.
Wait, he can't talk about OnlyFans at all? Wait, so like, I'm just gonna be so for real here. Like, this is just a little bit of theory crafting. If he made an OnlyFans account, would that be considered violating it? If so, that is kind of crazy.
Second, in the same way that she cites these posts about OF, she also cites Tectone talking about illegal.
Like, they literally said no gooting. It's like a court-ordered no gooting order. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying it like it matters, right? Because he's got a fiance, right? Sophia's amazing, right? But like, that is actually like, imagine being told you can, like, you're not allowed to use OnlyFans and it's a court order. That's just like, I feel like that's crazy. He can make it but can't promote it. Oh, okay, sure, but I don't know about the legal. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not gonna dive into that.
Illegal aliens as a threat towards her, saying, well, I'm half Mexican, so I'm almost a minority, and that means he's victimizing me with these posts. If this type of post counts as talking about Pinkchu, then Tectone, as a social media influencer, can't talk about the most pressing issues of the past year because his ex-girlfriend is half Mexican?
So Tectone talking about immigration policy is not allowed because Pinkchu is Mexican? Half. So maybe he can talk about, like, only the west side of the border? Or, like, the right side of the border? Did they decide which half of the border he's allowed to talk about?
This is very stupid. She continues, and I think this is the most ridiculous part, and I think it's where she takes the most advantage of the judge's ignorance of social media. She says that Tectone makes call-out videos on certain influencers. These kinds of videos, by the way, are extremely common on YouTube. I mean, this reads like she's suggesting that YouTube drama should be illegal.
Have you seen him do it to multiple people? Okay, she's bringing up enviosity. Oh, God.
It says here that if a protective order isn't granted, then he will continue relentlessly.
So Tectone calling Envy a mint picker fucked him in court. The mint picker's revenge. Bro, he got you. Bro, Envy got you, bro. I'm sorry, this is so retarded. This is so stupid.
Harassing and threatening her to the point where her life will be in danger. This is absolutely ridiculous. Over the past handful of days, Tectone and Miskiff have made like 18 videos on each other. By her logic, you would think that both of them would have been dead 10 times over by now.
Guys, like Mr. Pokey and I should both be in our graves at this point, right? If what Pink was saying was true.
Keep in mind that between the breakup in July and the time that Pinkchu made her allegations on November 20th, 2024, I can't find a single instance where Pinkchu's name was mentioned by Tectone, and she certainly doesn't provide any mentions outside of his post on November 22nd.
I think this is a super fair post. I think anyone that has an issue with this post has a mental disability.
Context here in mind. Tectone and Pinkchu break up. Tectone is silent about Pinkchu until she accuses him of assault. Then Tectone makes a post saying, I'm going to sue you if you don't apologize. In this context, he's just defending himself. Like he is being legally punished here for defending himself against allegations that had no corroborating evidence.
Remember, guys, the start of the case was, my client is too mentally disabled to have any proof for these allegations.
I think this is the main reason why Tectone has become so extreme. And whenever you think about it, really calling somebody a...
You know what?
is one of like the top 3 things that you can say to somebody that is career destroying, career ending, or damaging.
I now know why I'm getting radicalized. Great, now we know why I've actively been getting radicalized the past week. Wow, would you look at that? Would you just look at that?
That's a career-ending allegation, and during the court case, Tectone said that he was dropped from his partnership with OTK almost immediately after Pinkchu's allegations. By the way, if you're thinking she must be the innocent party because she filed for the protective order, note that protective orders get abused actually quite a lot. In fact, if you watched my video on Alexa Nicholas, who was falsely accused of leaking sealed court documents by a good friend of Taylor Lorenz, you would know that she mentioned that she had a stalker who was harassing her and her family. That stalker filed a restraining order against her. So yes, these orders can be weaponized.
It's about who's willing to take the lower shot first. And yes, there are ways for you to abuse the legal system as an abuser and continue abusing your victim.
And speaking of that, here's the fun part. I think this was all a coordinated effort against Tectone from multiple streamers. Let's move on to another stupid argument that...
Wow, why do I know about coordinated efforts from multiple streamers? Oh, why?
Pingchu makes that you would only think is valid if you didn't understand social media. On page 144, Pingchu says that Tectone destroyed her streaming career when he made his post on November 22nd. Now, personally, I don't know the validity of her claim. She provides no evidence of this outside of saying that's what happened.
So, this is the thing, Pink. If he was lying, you can sue him for defamation and report the damages of the loss of your streaming career. But Tectone didn't get sued for defamation, when clearly she's giving a case for defamation here. What Tectone's saying in that November 22 tweet, right, is like not good, whatever, right? And it ruined my career because of it, then that is potentially a defamation case, right? Because you can prove the damages, all of that. But there's a reason why there's no defamation case, right? It's because Your Honor, my client is too mentally disabled to have any proof of anything.
And she could have just...
So the only actual case here is the vibe check that her lawyer has confirmed is just he said, she said, and who's more believable. The lawyer never even mentions the word truth while talking about that. It's just whoever's more believable.
Has easily nuked her own Twitch channel to hide evidence that Tectone wasn't actually abusive, since they did a lot of streams together. But nonetheless, she's suggesting that her online career was over and her life was ruined, which is stupid because her primary income is Fansly and OnlyFans.
So that's why there's no defamation case, because her career doesn't rely on this at all, and even with the loss of a Twitch channel, there was nothing that actually changed for her income. So there you go.
It's stupid because hating on OnlyFans creators only makes them more popular. Everyone who is good at social media knows that. That's why OF chicks go on podcasts like Whatever or Fresh and Fit and say dumb stuff. It's to promote their content.
When you got kicked off of Fresh and Fit the first time, how much money did you make, girl, afterwards? Like, how many...
Fresh and Fit, there's no one that does more for OnlyFans women than Fresh and Fit. You have helped sex workers more than anybody, I think, in the world. You have given us the
This is a really distracting clip. Is like...
world. Every time I come on
that's insane.
Your show, my money goes way up. And then he kicked me off and then he invited me back on. So,
like, I feel like I'm not supposed to be looking at the screen, bro.
Oh.
The only bad press that you can get for OnlyFans is being unattractive. People don't care about the morality of a porn star. It's actually kind of a problem because you can inadvertently make the thing more popular by criticizing it. So Pink Jew suggesting that her life...
And you want to know somebody that's gotten more popular after being criticized? A lot. And why it's going to be very hard for me to show any actual proof of damages for any possible defamation case? Yes, we have grown so much over the past 2 whatever weeks, it's fucking ridiculous. Yes, I have a loss of about 300 subs. Yes, I've lost around 300 or so subs, guys. But, like, I can't care that much when everything else is literally ballooning and growing.
Was over after a single tweet from Tectone where, keep in mind, he was defending himself against allegations with no corroborating evidence. It's his right to do that. So Pink Jew suggesting that her life was over after that tweet couldn't be further from the truth.
Yep.
She's now more popular than ever and has more social media followers than Tectone between Instagram and TikTok. In fact, don't take my word for it. Take it from Muujin, who said on Twitter,
"Oh, this little rat fuck Muujin. Oh boy."
Let it be known that from this point onward, anyone still caught defending Tectone is purposefully ignoring facts for what is most likely a desperate and pathetic attempt at gaining favor or clout.
Man, I wonder what Muujin did to generate some clout with the broader community, right? Did Muujin say all this after reading the part where Tectone or Pink's lawyer confirmed it was a vibe check? Pink lawyer confirmed you don't need the truth, you just gotta be more believable? Did Muujin read the part where Pink's lawyer said, my client's too mentally disabled to have any proof, so you gotta just take her word for it? You know he didn't. Because I don't think Muujin is actually that well-researched. I think he just reads Twitter threads and makes conclusions off of that and thinks he's the smartest person in the room. It's legitimately pathetic.
I mean, maybe, though I'm not sure what facts he was talking about. Note that he said this before the transcript was made available, so real smart of him to not wait until the evidence was public.
He didn't even read the transcript before making this. That's the point I'm making. He pretends to be a well-researched individual that looks for all the proof, but he made a statement this crazy without even looking at the transcript, where all the information I just talked about was there.
However, you can see that he is very much on Pink Chew's side, and more importantly, you can see him stating here that she makes significantly more money than Tectone. Weird, because a statement like that makes her look like she's the one who actually has more power.
Muujin doesn't really think when he writes things like this,
and thus makes her look like the aggressor. But here's the part where things get interesting. Again, you would have to understand social media to recognize this stuff. On this page, page 144, Pink Chew mentions a girl named Morgan, and then she says that she went to Los Angeles to do collabs. I think it was a mistake to say this because Morgan is almost certainly Morgpie, a person who Pink Chew has done numerous collabs with.
Not me. That's funny because I picked that.
I feel like I'm gonna get in trouble for looking at this clip and they're not even doing anything.
Card in a different group and it was me. But I'm a big one.
Again, she's done a number of collabs with Morgue Pie, like this one here at the gym. God, she must edit her photos a lot.
I think every first date I ever go on is gonna be at like a water park. So like, I can see the truth. I'm done being lied to. I'm done being lied to, bro. This is some dog shit.
Looking at the same person when she's on video and in a place where she can't cake on makeup. Anyway, there's tons of video evidence of them.
Why did I just see 3 different people
interacting with each other? And
wait, is that still supposed to be?
Tons of tweets and stuff. So this person, Morgan, is almost certainly Morgue Pie. Why is that interesting? Well, it's interesting because one of the things that Morgue Pie is famous for is helping signal boost false allegations against the YouTubers who run a channel called Super Mega. Turkey Tom made a huge video on it.
Super Mega is a comedy gaming channel with almost 1 million subscribers, run by Matt Watson and Ryan McGee.
Now you see the power. There's a conversation I had before this video. Now you see the power of a CC being a voluntary celibate.
Over the past 2 years, the channel has found itself
this shit's crazy. There's like an ecosystem of like accusations, bro.
mired in endless controversy. However, none would prove as devastating as those levied in July of 2023. That month, a cosplayer named Lex accused Super Mega's channel artist, Don, of SA. Matt and Ryan were named for mishandling the situation. This sparked enough backlash for a whole new wave of accusations to surface from former friends and employees. Lex's outright lies in her own video poisoned the well, and if her initial story about Don was true, it is severely discredited by the various falsehoods she spread. These falsehoods were supported by her boyfriend, Ethan is Online.
Why do they all look like people I would never ever talk to in my life?
Their friend, Nick is Not Green.
I would intentionally avoid every single one of these individuals in every public setting possible upon first glance.
Their other friend, Leighton Stollard.
I'm still not going to amend my statement.
Morgue Pie, and even Rav. All of
it applies to everybody.
All of these people spread provable lies to smear Super Mega as a brand.
Super Mega was a popular variety channel that had a podcast, and this was quite the Turkey Tom video. It's kind of like an epic set of false allegations, but where Morgue Pie plays a role is that she had a crush on one of the owners named Matt. Matt didn't want to pursue a relationship.
Okay.
But they hooked up twice, and then I think Matt chose a different girl over her.
Honestly, I cried for months over that guy. I was like, give me one of your shirts, you know what I mean? So I posted a picture of me wearing the shirt I took of his onto my personal Twitter, not like my big one, but my other one. And he texted me after ghosting me, after I asked him if he wanted to hang out again that night. He didn't respond to me asking if he wanted to hang out again. He responded with a screenshot of the post and was like, hey, can you take this down? Like, people have seen me in that shirt, like they know that shirt.
So let me give you the internal monologue of the guy she's talking about right now. I don't want to be seen with someone who's made for the streets. I assume that's what's going through his head if he's like desperately asking her to remove the photos.
On this post.
Did you hear the part where she said she made the post on a second account? Kind of like similar to what Pinkchu did.
Well, at least he didn't throw any allegations at her after the fact, right?
Odd coincidence. To quickly sum things up, Morgue Pie became friends with a disgruntled ex-Super Mega employee named Leighton, whose goal was to do whatever he could to ruin their career. Morgue Pie's purpose was to basically signal boost and give validity to all of the provably false things that
wait, I forgot. That's what she did.
Leighton was saying about Super Mega. During this time, she also doxes the ex-girlfriend and current girlfriend of one of the owners. And
this guy fucked up.
It seems like the doxing was intentional to get back at him for picking another girl over her. Again, these are very familiar circumstances.
So I was just talking about personal details.
But I'm still kind of just, damn, maybe I've been underestimating myself. Damn, maybe we've all been underestimating ourselves.
Being unnecessarily mentioned and weaponized to make me look worse. And unfortunately, more people have jumped on that bandwagon. One of those people being Morgan, aka Morgue Pie. Morgan not only brought my current girlfriend into the situation on stream without her consent, she also name dropped my girlfriend and revealed that we were in a relationship, which was not public information. I'm very private about my relationships, so...
As you should be.
This was a big blow. Morgan also brought my ex-girlfriend into the picture without her consent and has strongly hurt her because of this. She lied about conversations with my ex-girlfriend. She wrongly stated that I had been having a multiple-month affair with my current girlfriend while I...
Who had it worse, this guy or Tech?
Was dating my ex-girlfriend. She also lied about not knowing who my current girlfriend was, because she did know who that was and she used it as a segue to name drop her. She also falsely claimed that I was cheating on my current girlfriend, which is not true. They are both being harassed viciously and their personal lives are being used as weapons to make me look worse.
Hey, my bad for commenting on this guy before. I did not know any of this shit. I did not know it was this fucking bad. I think he probably is just depressed during the recording and I think he looks a lot better when he's not fucking dealing with shit like this. Actually, now that I see it, bro has gotten no sleep. He's got the eye bags. Looks like he's been fasting, not actually eating food. He's probably like 40 pounds heavier on the normal. I think he's just so stressed out. That's why he looks like shit. I'm going to be real with you. This guy looks like he's actively dying while recording this. He looks like he should be in a hospital bed. That's why I was talking. Legitimately, he looks unhealthy. But I can't be surprised by that with all the shit that he's fucking saying. All the shit that's happened to him. Yeah, it's a 1,000-yard stare. I can't even be surprised that he looks like he's not taking care of himself because he's probably dealing with all this shit. And remember, this was a coordinated attack against him by multiple creators.
And I think that's completely unacceptable.
And by the way, even though the allegations were false, they still succeeded. Super Mega took a huge hit, and it really hasn't been the same since. Even after Super Mega was...
Remember, this was after the channel's getting basically harassed, right, by these false allegations and all of that stuff. Remember, he's actively in the middle of losing his career, losing his algo, losing all his views and stuff while that's going on.
Exonerated in the eyes of the public.
So yes, I can totally see why that guy is not looking that great. I feel like, brother, you could have shown him, you could have thrown him a bone, right? And showed what he looked like before he underwent all this bullshit. That's my take. We could have at least gave him even showed like how his physique, right? How his looks have like degenerated over time because of like the stress from this situation. I think that would have been a lot better.
So if you're wondering why people do these tactics and coordinate these ops on Discord and stuff, it's because they work. So where am I going with all this? Well, Pinkchu's official story is that she thought her relationship with Tectone was all consensual until after the breakup and after she confided in a friend who told her that actually she was being abused.
She admitted under oath in the Freem case, which was before this one, where she was suing Freem for defamation. She admitted that there was no abuse, none of that.
And yes, this sounds very much like I consented to sex and then changed my mind later.
Which is, again, with the Freem details, yes, that's what it looks like.
It's like 2015 college feminist behavior.
And remember, civil court is a vibe check, confirmed by Pink's lawyer herself. It's what's more believable, not necessarily the truth.
Anyway, my personal opinion is that the friend who Pinkchu talked to was Morgpie, which is why her name randomly slips in the transcript.
And I guess Morgpie's got a lot of job experience with career takedowns.
And I think the actual reason that Pinkchu is doing all of this is because she's mad that Tectone broke up with her, and she's mad that he is with someone else after she clearly was still into him when the relationship ended, based on texts that were shown in court.
Yep.
And what I mean is that on page 113, after the breakup, before she goes into the mental hospital, she's talking about how much she loves him and says, "I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. I'm going to get a full psych evaluation and get some real help." So I've read certain parts of this transcript a lot of times, particularly this part, and here it sounds like the actual story is that she was having regular psychological breakdowns.
And remember, the lawyer has to read out that message to her because naturally, she probably doesn't want to read that one.
He got tired of putting up with it, so her going to the mental hospital was like, "No, wait, I swear I'll change." I would also guess that she was threatening self-harm if he broke up with her, which is why she's saying, "I'm sorry if I ever hurt you."
Do you know how often that occurs? Where there's an argument, somebody wants to break up, and then somebody will threaten to hurt themselves if you try to follow through with that? Bro, it happens so much, but you never hear about it. It's ridiculous.
Which again, makes her look like the abuser because threatening self-harm is emotional blackmail.
Like, I like to call those, I call that basically, it's like domestic relationship terrorism. Domestic relationship terrorism.
Honestly, this visit to the mental hospital looks like some sort of bargain to get him back after the breakup, and I think the actual reason that Pinkchu acted out on social media is because she's pissed off that Tectone moved on to somebody else. Based on the information that I've shown, I don't think this is that much of a stretch. Now, pay attention to who Pinkchu's friend Morgpie is friends with. Would it shock you if I said that Hassan Piker is a friend of hers? I don't know how every bad thing on social...
Ain't this shit haram?
...media always relates back to this social circle, but it seems to be the case. Why is that important? Well, Hassan Piker has this ongoing war...
Maybe not, I guess.
...with Asmongold. Probably because he's mad that Asmon is more famous than him. Hassan likes to sit back and have his little lackeys do all the dirty work for him. This is a famous tactic of his, and he primarily works by not direct...
Oh, Hassan's not Muslim? I thought he was. Oh, he's agnostic. Oh, he used to be Muslim. Gotcha, he used to be. Oh, okay. He is? He's selective? He's Schrodinger's Muslim. Okay, he's Schrodinger's Muslim, okay.
He's saying that he has certain values, but he will signal boost all the people who have the values that he wants to promote by watching their content on his stream. That being said, Tectone is friends with Asmongold. Hassan wants to attack Asmongold in any way that he can, so I think his lackeys came up with a plot to destroy Tectone. They do this a lot.
Yep.
Recently, Girl Hassan and promoter of incest, aka Denims,
that's a fun fact,
randomly attacked Emiru for being friends with Asmongold and for not talking about her politics, which was stupid and pointless.
Racist chud. Emma is friends with Asmongold, Lakari, Tectone, plus she thinks Ethan Klein's lawsuits are justified.
This is like PS1 graphics, and this is like the PS5.
Asmongold's a bad person. Tectone is a bad person.
But going back to Tectone, seeing that Morgpie has already been involved in
That's why she made that commentary.
conspiracy behavior against Super Mega, I don't think it's that unreasonable to say that this tactic is being repeated a lot. Ethan Klein being yet another example of a person who Hassan's social circle has conspired against. So basically, the lackeys create the noise, and then Hassan does stuff like signal boost false information about Tectone that was said by Misgift.
The only thing that Hassan signal boosts nowadays are the signals heading to Kaya's shot caller.
Apparently, Misgift sent like a court reporter to the court to take notes in this process. Then he brought Hassanabi saying, like how when he shocked his dog. So apparently, he did a right-wing pivot, and he thought that, but Hassanabi...
It's not pre-watched, by the way.
But Hassanabi bad would work in a court of law. This is why I always say nobody grifts to the left.
Sorry, that last line wasn't super relevant, but it was so stupid that I had to include it.
Nobody grifts to the left? Get the...
If you read the court transcript, it was actually Pink Chu's lawyer who brings up that Hassan abuses animals, not Tectone. And the reason it was brought up was because of a retarded counter-argument that Pink Chu's lawyer made about the allegations against Tectone having no effect on how much hate he gets, because he brings up things like Hassan shocking his dog. It was such a stupid part of the transcript because Pink Chu's lawyer is arguing that Pink's pretty direct allegations against Tectone on Twitter of one of the most horrific crimes didn't really have an effect on how many threats he gets, because nobody could figure out that she was talking about him, despite numerous people in the comments saying that it was Tectone.
And that's where I said this shit from the start was gonna bite her in the ass, because you got everybody saying it. You had Denims jumping in, you had Hassan jumping in, you had LSF jumping in, you had your own comment section jumping in too.
But when Tectone says any random thing about OnlyFans, even when...
But hey, I hear voices in my head. Straight up, it's like, oh, he must be talking about me. When he's just not even. But when she's talking about him, it doesn't count.
He's showing that he's referencing a different person. It's an immediate threat to Pink Chu's life. So again, I think there's a bigger thing going on here where a bunch of people are collaborating with Pink Chu to try to destroy Tectone, Morgpie being one of them. By the way, these people are often stupid, so they leave tons of evidence lying around. Here's Miskiff going on a huge tirade during his Tectone video, where he's basically blowing Hassan and the rest of the LA streamer scene.
You attacked Hassan for months, years now, shitting on Hassan, farming so much hate on the guy, acting like he's a problem. You're farming hate on Hassan Piker all fucking day, Frogan, people that are doing shit. You attacked Pokimane, Cutie Cinderella.
I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say that these people are talking.
Guys, Miskiff really reminds me of Skull CJ and Mr. Pokey, right? Where it's like, how dare you call out when people make dog shit takes? When I say something really, really, really dumb and really stupid, can you just pretend I never said it? Can't you just do that, please? That, like, guys, it's so bad that you're calling out bad behavior. Can you just not do that? Can I just be stupid with the full can I have the license to be dumb and not be criticized as well? Guys, these guys want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to be retarded and also not be criticized. How about you just be smart and also don't get criticized? That's my advice to every CC that finds themselves getting, you know, reacted to like this. Have you just tried not being dumb? Have you just tried not being stupid? That way, usually your takes won't get commented on if you're not being dumb. Dummy.
Especially considering they live in the same area. I mean, Miskiff flat out admits to talking to Pink Chu, but you know, not out of concern for her well-being, but to point out that she didn't think it was weird when he shook her hand for too long that one time.
Then me and his ex-girlfriend started to talk, and I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, I never ever said that in my fucking life. Why the fuck would I care about that? Like, I did not shake her hand a long time.
You can watch Miskiff for about 60 seconds.
Bro, why are you talking about the length of handshakes? I feel like if you started to get to a point where you are... I wonder if Pink tried to coordinate a hate campaign against Tech? What is this? Hey, Hassan, whenever you're free, can I DM you on Twitter? 0507 0506. Are there any mods available? So Pink is clearly trying to get in touch with Hassan during May of last year. And let me see the date over here. Oh wait, there's a message in Denim's chat over here. Let me check this out. For the NDA, I found out allegations through someone else that this wife was trying to come forward with. I told him at the time and he shut it down, going on phone calls with a member of OTK and other streamers. I was told he paid a sum of money not to talk about each other anymore. Is this her violating her NDA in Denim's Switch chat? I don't know, but I do see some potential. I do see a bit of a special Avengers team up going on over here. It's like, hey, let's go beat up Thanos. And to go beat up Thanos, we're gonna bring what's like the it's like bringing Luke Cage, Daredevil, and like the Netflix Avengers to go fight Thanos. You would get fucked up. Like, that's what it would be like.
And easily see that this guy only cares about himself. Personally, I think all of this drama farming for him is just to make people not pay attention to his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, people like bringing 4 Black Widows against Thanos. Nah, that shit ain't happening, bro. 4 Black Widows and Hawkeye.
Emiru's allegations, saying that he was pretty abusive.
After like all of that Rust stuff happened was when the other domestic abuse stuff really started. He would
My personal viewpoint is that Mizkif's whole position against Tectone is one of the biggest smokescreen deflection incidents ever.
destroy furniture in front of me. He would throw things in front of me and near me. Destroy walls. Again, you can go see this in some of his VODs in his bedroom, the holes in the wall. There would be times where he was upset at me and I would go to my stream room and literally lock myself in to get away from him, and he would be banging on the door and screaming at me. At the time, he also would more often do things like if we were driving in the car together, he would be going like 150 miles an hour, and like one time he even said like, well, now we're both gonna die, like threatening to kill both of us.
This is rough. Right, this is rough naturally. I think Mizkif's response to all of those allegations was that it was warranted because Emiru threw those at him. Yeah, she threw a couple of these at the guy. I see what he was talking about. What a case.
Interesting story. So we have Mizkif talking to Pinkchu. Well, of course he was talking to Pinkchu because he couldn't have known about the court date and where to send his court reporter to take a bunch of factually inaccurate notes. In fact, this idiot friend of Mizkif's who goes by Axion publicly admits to being invited to the court by Pinkchu.
He knows me. I think he tried to get me kicked out or something. I can only assume that's not for sure because the bailiff came over and asked me, "Are you here for her?"
I don't know what it is about this guy. He reminds me of like a Roblox character. He looks like a Roblox character. Like he does.
And she was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Yeah." Did Pig know? I said, "Yeah." She signed me up to be there.
What an idiot to have admitted that. So now we know that Mizkif and Axion's involvement was directly approved by Pinkchu, which is interesting because it seems to be the case that Mizkif has gone on a full-on disinformation campaign against Tectone, where he spreads numerous lies that are easy to disprove if you just look at the court transcript. So now I believe this chick even less. If she was being honest, then she wouldn't have to side with people who constantly make statements of fact that are easy to verify as false.
Not gonna lie, coming off the back of sorry, I don't even know why I said that in the context of this. That's terrible fucking wording. Let me just retract that statement and reword it. That was really bad. Fuck. That was bad. With the context that Pinkchu has been reaching out to people that have literally like a history of false allegations, like the whole morgue pie super whatever that we just looked at over here, right? Plus the reach outs to Hassan, plus the reach outs to Denims, right? This looks like retribution and a coordinated takedown and an effort by a bunch of CCs. Where you got Mizkif jumping in, you got Hassan jumping in, you got Morgue Pie jumping in, you got Denims jumping in, you got Frogan and Frogan's S1 jumping in as well. We can't forget Frogan's S1 doing some crazy shit behind the scenes over here in that previous clip, right? We can't forget about that one. So it's like, man, it's like it is a coordinated takedown effort, and the people involved in the takedown, they don't look very good because of their history.
Here's another stupid one that Mizkif said.
And has to pay all of her attorney fees, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not a small price.
Mizkif, if this is how factually accurate you are in reporting the story, then you should go work for CNN.
It's not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
The fees were around $15,000.
So Mizkif was off by just only like 900%.
Said out loud in the courtroom, so his friend would have heard it. And you think a guy like Mizkif, who has his own allegations of abuse and is saying they aren't true, would be more careful to accurately report information, especially considering that this stuff is so easy to look up.
Probably because Axiom actually has, like, the typing ability of a Roblox character. I don't know if you saw the transcript that Axiom put out. It's the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. I imagine, like, this is what his fingers look like, and he was just smashing on the keyboard, and that's why the transcript looks like fucking shit. No lie, bro.
Anyway, Mizkif also graciously leaked his own DMs, showing that he was talking to Mike from PA, another Hassan orbiter, who went on to repeat other bombastic things about Tectone.
So there you have it, chat. Tectone.
Oh my god, get this fucking guy off my screen, bro. Like, looking at him makes me think I'm, like, degenerating in Intelligence Live.
He's a rapist.
Like, my brain immediately wants to go down to a lower level because I assume I'm talking to someone that's, like, fucking primitive.
He is a stalker. He's a danger to the community, and he should absolutely 100% be permanently banned from Twitch. And could someone explain to me why he's not been permanently banned from Twitch?
That is real crazy coming from a guy who was trying to get one of his viewers to assassinate a YouTuber he didn't like. Or was him simping over the $5 a month girl the more egregious offense?
Bro, he touched a woman, then started doing that. That's his immediate reaction to touching a woman. Like, that's a fact too. That's not even that's a fact because that's what he did right after touching a woman.
And last, as far as I've been able to find,
you know, I've been assuming a lot. I've assumed Mike from PA means Mike from Pennsylvania. Does PA actually just stand for, like, Pussy Academy? I've never confirmed that, so I don't know. I'm just asking.
I think Denims is a part of this as well, because she was openly saying that it was Tectone being accused of sexual assault before that was public. So personally, in my opinion, I think this whole situation was not because Pink Chu was afraid of Tectone. I think it was a coordinated effort by people who hate Tectone to try to ruin his career. I mean, also, she has no proof that he's abusive outside of her saying he is. And let me elaborate on what I'm talking about. When Emiru accused Miskif of being abusive, she brought receipts. She had Discord messages and then like a million schizo texts that he sent her after the breakup. Now I'm more likely to believe what she says.
Oh, she brought a lot of glue to this one.
Because she can show documented behavior that supports her accusations.
Fuck it, multiple file folders full of glue.
As for Tectone, the only time he mentions Pink Chu is after she accuses him of abuse, and what's really going on here is that she made an allegation with no corroborating evidence. Tectone says that's not true, and now he's getting legally punished for it.
Yeah, this was used as evidence against him in court. Hey, you have no proof, you have no allegations, or you have no proof for your allegations. It's all potentially made up, right? And so I'm going to sue you for defamation because you're fucking ruining my... You're really bleeding into my fucking profitability and career right now, right? Because guess what, guys? When you got allegations and stuff out there, well, people tend to do things, right? Like, oh, maybe I don't watch the guy. Maybe I don't watch a guy if he's maybe I'm going to stop watching that guy. That's a thought that goes into people's heads when they see an accusation like this.
It's actually disturbing how often these types of situations happen. I mentioned recently that Turkey Tom was falsely accused by an ex-girlfriend of his in a situation that is strikingly similar to Tectone's, where 4 days after the breakup, she goes on to Kiwi Farms to accuse him of physical abuse, filming without consent, and engaging in weird fetishes.
Recently, I've been accused by an ex-girlfriend along with an ex-
I'm not gonna lie, she did more than Pink. Hey, I guess Tectone should just be glad he didn't end up with that person. I think the Turkey Tom situation, from what I'm hearing, she might be worse.
Partner of non-consensually filming sexual encounters, being so rough and inconsiderate during sexual encounters that it bordered on assault, encouraging eating disorders, being into age play, along with a litany of other completely baseless, false accusations.
The reality was that his ex-girlfriend, Rowan, was actively consenting to everything, including being filmed. She had a bunch of creepy fetishes, and she was trying to push Tom into behavior that he didn't want to engage with.
So she a freak. Oh, she was too freaky, and he was not down for that.
Never asked me. He would just...
Nicholas Lights here. Yo, what up, brother? Tectone's takedown was a coordinated attack by the most vicious people on the internet. One look at this lady's Twitter, and you know exactly what she's trying to do. It's somewhat working, but not for long. Real ones understand. The frauds will keep pretending. So yeah, I think we're getting into the words from the Turkey Tom ex right now. The one that's a bit of a freak.
Pull out his phone and record. I wouldn't notice until maybe 30 seconds in a minute or a minute into it.
Now, I obviously can't and would never show these videos to anyone, but in them, it's undeniable that she is staring directly into the camera from the moment the video starts. Because the reality is that every single time we recorded, I had explicit permission. Rowan texts me saying, quote, "Rape thing is so hot." My response to this is, consensual sex is good.
How did he make that funny? Why did he make that funny? Why did you decide to do that? I'm just saying, because now you're gonna make me start laughing when a text like this is on the fucking screen, you fucking dickhead. I'm trying not to laugh right now.
It's funny because Tom sends texts like the FBI is watching. I just want to make sure that we've established...
He sends texts like the FBI is...
So this is all consensual, okay? Somebody knew this was coming.
In the interview, it stated that our breakup took place in December, and that after that, she realized how bad it was, and she...
Why does this guy gotta make it funny too? Why y'all both try to make me laugh when that's the subject area? You assholes.
He felt the need to contact Katie, who we're gonna get into later.
Gee, where have I heard that one before? If you watch Tom's video on the false allegations against him, it's an incredibly similar story to Tectone's, except I think Tom is a little bit more conscientious about this stuff, and so he made sure to have evidence of his ex openly saying that she would blackmail him if they did.
Basically, we're saying Tom handled this a lot better than Tech did. Because Tom was, like, ready. And I think Tom kind of knew what he was getting himself into by dating all these crazy-ass women.
Didn't get back together.
Immediately after I told Rowan that I wanted to break up with her, she began threatening to post about me online.
I'm gonna make it hard for you to ever be in a relationship.
Okay, Rowan, I just want to move on and have my life, and you'll move on and have your life. And we can be in our own corners. We don't have to do damage to each other.
Like, do you think we'll ever be able to see each other?
After the way these conversations have gone today, I really don't think so.
Why?
Because you're, like, threatening to blackmail me.
I'm not.
She lies as easily as she breathes.
Well, if you don't come see me, then I will.
You know what?
Dude, I think I'm just gonna stay single for the rest of my life. I'm gonna be honest here. I cannot be fucked. I'm gonna be so for real. I think this is just, I'm gonna clone myself. I'm just gonna make enough money to clone myself, and that'll be my kid. Great. Like, at this point, what the fuck, dude? This shit is so cooked.
What's great about all this? Despite that Tom has her recorded saying that she will blackmail him, there really isn't much remedy you can get against someone for false allegations unless you sue them for defamation, which is expensive and hard to prove, and it's why people feel safe in falsely accusing somebody. And
again, that's why. Because look at what happens here. I get falsely accused of this crime by Mr. Pokey. But it's so ridiculous, and there's no proof, and it's just absurd that this is even happening, that yes, I lose some subscribers and stuff like that, but then people also want to watch my stream and join my community because they feel like I'm being wronged. And so I actually grow, I actually make more money. And so even though I've been literally defamed with slanderous statements, I can't prove damages because I'm making more money because of these accusations. So it's like, I kind of just have to accept that I am getting lied about because it's profitable for me. It's weird. Like, do you guys understand why this is so complicated?
And then asshats like Hassan will boost the false allegations without critical thought or...
And that's why this is fine too, because you have to prove damages.
Saying, where's the evidence?
By the way, one of your OG slop tuber ops, Turkey Tom, also caught a sexual assault allegation where he physically abused 2 of his exes. This didn't even reach your radar because he's laying low. No, it didn't reach my radar because I have so many fucking ops that have done like sexual assault that I don't even know who the fuck this one is.
I do remember hearing something about certain like brothels somewhere. I don't know. I can neither confirm nor deny the rumors that I've heard about brothels. But I can confirm the live interactions I've seen with this dog over here, like fucking a dog over here turning into Raiden Shogun, bro.
But that's crazy.
There he is, just agreeing with and validating the allegation with no pushback, despite knowing nothing about it. Luckily, Tom knew the exact way to humiliate his ex for blackmailing him and how to prove his innocence. But for average people, this can be life-destroying, and there's not really much you can do about it.
And this is the thing. Because I have an audience, I'm fine. Because I have the ability to counteract these claims, I'm fine. But a lot of people don't.
Anyway, let's go to the court decision. Like everyone else, I already knew the results before I read this transcript, and I was still shocked to see this. Based on the testimony and the evidence that's been provided to the court does find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant is the victim of sexual assault. The court makes the additional finding that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant is the victim of stalking and will grant a 10-year protective order.
Remember, this is Judge Dimple over here. Just, hey, just watch out for her brother Elbow.
Court means the judge, by the way. The judge made this decision, just to make it clear that this was not a trial by jury. Some additional things, Tectone has to pay $15,000 in lawyer fees to Pinkchu. He can't go anywhere near her. Who cares about that? He obviously doesn't want to go near her. He has lost his right to own a firearm for 10 years, which is nuts considering she didn't really have any evidence that Tectone was dangerous. And he's not allowed to talk about her, which again, is also ridiculous, not because he can't say the name Pinkchu for 10 years, but because of the criteria they consider to be a conversation about Pinkchu. As in, if Tectone ever talks about OnlyFans in a negative light, is he liable for criminal charges? This is...
I guess so.
Insane. Knowing nothing going in, I don't think any reasonable person would have agreed with the judge here. So...
Because, remember, the basis of this case and all of Pink's claims are, her lawyer in the opening argument says, my client is too mentally disabled to have any proof of any of these allegations. She is so mentally disabled and so incapable, she was not able to gather any proof for any of these allegations, and that was the opening statement. Actual vibe check.
I started researching on who this person is. Judge Dimple Malhotra. If you go to her website, it basically describes her as an activist who started out by working in San Francisco, California. Remember how I said that Austin is the California of Texas?
Oh, God. I see why she's like this.
Texas? Also this.
It is so incredibly important that we celebrate and embrace diversity. And I think it's just so important even for this courtroom, when people walk into this courtroom and they're from different ethnicities, cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, to be able to walk in and see someone who looks like me, I think provides a certain level of comfort to them.
An immigrant who grew up in the U.S. with a family environment deeply rooted in Indian culture. Judge Dimple Malhotra is the first and only person of South Asian descent elected to a judicial seat in Travis County history. Oh, great. So she's one of those people where we have to focus on their race instead of their qualifications.
You know what the craziest thing is that she probably underwent some of the most absurd affirmative action in her college years because she's from Southeast Asia. I'm not even joking. Like, it's, you know how hard it was for Asian people to get into college, like basically the last 30 years? Bro, it's so hard for like Asian and Indian people to get into college. So it's just ironic that this is the stance she has, knowing she was debuffed the entire time by this whole DEI system she's talking about.
Oh, oftentimes I think
it's just like, literally, her life was made more difficult by the policies she's pushing forward right now.
especially for me being an immigrant, being a woman of color.
Basically, I'm saying the judge is woke. Now, there were a bunch of arguments made by Pink Chu's lawyer that didn't really make sense to me. I mean the ones where she brings up Tectone talking about anti-white racism. What does that have to do with this case? What does it have to do with Pink Chu? Why did Pink Chu bring up that she's half Mexican? They making arguments that are irrelevant and would clearly make a judge who ran as a Democrat think that Tectone is a racist.
Right, they did bring up that Tectone was a white supremacist in the transcripts, huh? Got that plus 10% damage inflicted debuff right there.
Keep in mind that this court case is occurring on January 23rd of 2026, which is during a bunch of anti-ICE riots and after Renee Good died.
Hey, you should have just been sick that day, bro. You should have called it a sick day. I'm gonna be honest. Like, you'd be like, hey, can we do this, like, in a month? Hey, can we do this in, like, 5 months? Like, this is not good timing. My dick fell off. Like, they just give the craziest excuse ever. You, like, broke your leg 5 times. I don't know, bro. You should have moved it.
Very politically polarized things to bring up that I think aren't relevant to Tectone's case. I'm guessing that maybe Pink Chu's lawyer did some research on the judge, and maybe this is why Judge Malhotra didn't notice things like Pink Chu's lawyer victim-blaming Tectone for his abuse as a child.
What you're also going to hear about this case, Your Honor, is that they have never actually engaged in traditional intercourse. It was only ever he received blah, blah, blah.
In her opening statements, something that was immediately noticeable to me.
There was one time where Pink wanted me to have to try sex, and I swore to her that I would try, and I did, and it just didn't work. That's unfortunate. When he was in 3rd grade, Tectone's sister tried to infect him with parasites or crabs. I think it's abusive bullying behavior to blame him for this, particularly when it's the first argument that Michelle Locke makes when she starts the cross-exam. So Michelle Locke, this woke lawyer, all about all this woke stuff with a woke judge, her opening argument is basically victim blaming Tectone for the fact that his sister raped him when he was a child? Or his aunt did. So a family member did that. Okay, so that's Michelle Locke's opening statement. Vibe check, okay.
I mean, this statement right here very much makes it seem like Pink Chu was trying to use shame to force Tectone into sex acts that he was uncomfortable with because of his childhood trauma.
That's like actually rape, though.
Wouldn't it be ironic if that were the case?
Because you spent your career
because that's like actually
doing domestic violence cases and you have a background, some might think that it would be hard for you to be impartial as the judge.
Right.
So how do you maintain your impartiality?
As a prosecutor, I took an oath to seek justice, not conviction. And so people have to remember that and that not to say that there aren't prosecutors in the world who are doing the wrong thing. Unfortunately, with every profession, you have people who really shouldn't be in that profession, who are there for the wrong reason. I took an oath as a judge to be fair and impartial.
Proof?
And that is also incredibly important. People
proof
walking into your courtroom deserve your impartiality and to listen to their side of the story.
Proof?
That was hard to listen to considering her decision on Tectone's case.
Exactly, that's why I'm asking for proof. Where is the proof? It's not in the transcripts. Where's the proof? Miss Dimple?
How do you stay impartial? That's easy. The answer is she doesn't. Now, this does seem like a random question to ask, so why was it brought up? Well, the answer to that, I think, is a much bigger issue than the diversity stuff from earlier. The answer, I think, is a massive conflict of interest. I believe she was asked that question because a few years prior to this interview, there was an article written on her about how a lawyer got her taken off his case because of her domestic violence activism.
Oh, so in the past, she has been intentionally taken off of, forcefully recused. She won't recuse herself. She has a history of recognizing her own bias, but not recusing herself. And so the court has to mandate in order to recuse her, because she won't do it herself. Okay, so there's the proof she just lied. At least that's my opinion. She just lied in that entire segment. If she needs to be recused by the system.
That trying to stop domestic violence is great. However, I also agree with the defense attorney Steve Brand, who says that her activism makes her biased towards alleged victims, and there's no way he could win a case with her as a judge.
And he wasn't wrong.
Also kind of recommends that every defense lawyer should be filing a motion to remove her from their case.
Why the fuck did you forget to do this, you stupid idiot? That's one of the biggest comments that I made about this entire situation is that I've made the take that I think Tectone is stupid. At least here. Because, like, bro, you could have found this out. I feel like you could have found this out beforehand. Because, like, this is crazy.
And personally, after reading the transcript of Tectone's hearing, I agree. And in my armchair internet,
I don't want to but I'm not like victim blaming him, right? I'm not saying it's his fault this happened because he was dumb. I'm saying his dumbness in this situation was one of the big reasons for I think what occurred. I don't want to blame him though, but it's like if there was more knowledge gathered, this wouldn't have happened, right?
That lawyer opinion with 2020 hindsight, Tectone's lawyer should have gotten Judge Dimple removed and gone with somebody else.
Yep.
I'm curious how many other people like Tectone she's done this to, where the accuser has no corroborating evidence mixed in with strong counter evidence against her story.
I would love to see if Miss Dimple over here, right? Her past cases, her past analyses, her past biases are perhaps investigated by an independent third party, right? Just to make sure that we're holding certain individuals, certain activist judges accountable, right? When they have a track record of needing to be recused themselves. They won't recuse themselves. That's proven. When she's biased, she refuses to recuse herself.
A lot of people don't know that there's a huge intersection between gun violence and domestic violence. All the studies that have been done show us that over half of the cases where there have been mass shootings, the mass shooter has had a history of domestic violence.
Did I hear that correctly? Is this why Tectone has to be treated like a felon for something that, after reading the transcript, I don't think he did? It looks like she's on some sort of anti-gun crusade, which is why she took his access to firearms away for a decade. For a decade, when he's a streamer, which puts his life in danger.
Exactly. I'm going to be honest. It's probably a good idea for you to have one.
Has she ever heard of the phrase correlation does not equal causation? What evidence do you have that Tectone's going to crash out and become like a mass shooter or something? Is this why Pink Shoe's lawyer tried to associate him with white supremacy? Is it also why Pink Shoe's lawyer, immorally in my opinion, pretended to be a medical expert on schizophrenia to frame Tectone as an unmedicated psycho who could break any time?
Likely, yeah. You can see that there's an effort to do a lot of character assassination of Tech throughout this document with information and tidbits that aren't fucking relevant. And I'm actually wondering how half of these were even admitted into the fucking court in the first place.
By the way, Tectone got re-diagnosed and he doesn't have schizophrenia.
I went to a psychiatrist yesterday. Guys, I'm not schizophrenic.
He's cured.
The psychiatrist believes the reason why I see things that aren't there, mainly, well, at night, is due to the fact that I got stabbed in my left eye, and my right eye is normal.
So he literally had a fucked up eye, and because he saw shit, he thought it was schizophrenia. Remember what I said? Tectone was like kind of stupid. This is like just one of the examples of sometimes where he's like sometimes like dumb out of nowhere.
And so they believe that my eyeballs are causing me to temporarily hallucinate things that aren't there because they're not signaling my brain properly. And what they believe that I have is anxiety with bad vision as well as unresolved childhood trauma.
I think that makes a lot more sense. I don't think he like, and this is the thing, guys. All of those things I consider to just be like damage on your psyche that can be recovered. That's not the same as having like an actual like mental illness that's just there, right? This is all stuff that I feel like with a lot of TLC, therapy, all of that, this is something you can move past from.
So I was going to actually try to get medicated. They said I do not require medication.
You have to read the transcript.
That's good, because one thing you don't want to take is mental medication when you don't actually need it, because it will probably lead to you doing something actually bad.
To get to the level of fuck these people that I'm at. Basically what's happened here is that to a judge who appears to be in favor of DEI and appears to be anti-gun, Pink Shoe's lawyer framed Tectone as a violent, unmedicated, schizophrenic neo-Nazi.
Yep.
Tectone is also bald, so he might as well be seen as a skinhead, too. No wonder this trial ended the way.
I mean, bro looks like he's... I mean this in the least defamatory sense possible. Tectone looks like he's racist. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying he is, but, like... You could see, like, an analog for him, right? At, like, a march or something. That's what I mean. He's, like, he in some ways will fit the stereotypical definition for a lot of people in society. That's my personal take. I don't personally think that way, but I can definitely see why a lot of people would also think that way as well, because he's just like, he's a fucking big white guy with like a strong build and stuff, with tattoos and all of that. So I think there's just natural assumptions.
It did. This is so messed up, and I don't just think this is a violation of the First and the Second Amendment, but also a violation of the Eighth Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment.
Visual stereotype.
It's also clear to me, in my opinion, based on the evidence that I've shown, that a big part of the reason that Pink Shoe filed for this protective order is to avoid a defamation lawsuit.
Because that's the thing, right? You can't do your defamation lawsuit with this protective order up. That's why his defamation suit was also, I believe, declined at the same time.
Maybe Tectone's biggest mistake here was being openly arrogant around all this during his live streams, but it's hard to blame him because who in the hell would have thought that he would have lost this case based on the evidence in the court transcripts?
Well, when the opening statement from the other lawyer is, my client is like too mentally disabled to provide any proof for these allegations, like usually that would mean they're just lying. Or, like, they don't have any proof, so, like, they don't have a case because there's no proof of anything. So, but it's just, again, but civil court is literally a vibe check. And Michelle Locke, or whoever Locke is, right? Like the lawyer, right? On Pikachu's side, she was all like, she literally said, it's about who's more believable, not the truth.
And you know what the real messed up thing is? Well, I said it already. Pikachu most likely will not receive any consequences for this, and Tectone will probably not be able to win an appeal because of how appeals court works. The sad truth is that there is very little recourse for victims of false allegations.
I think the best course of action would be Judge Dimple, Miss Dimple over here, right? I don't think she deserves any my honorifications or anything like that. I think if Miss Dimple is investigated, that would probably lead to a resolution to this process, and I would definitely support a call for an investigation into Miss Dimple and her conduct. Because this seems like to me one of the grossest miscarriages of justice I've ever seen.
And if Pikachu were found to be lying, which, in my opinion, she was, there's basically nothing that you can do outside of suing for defamation, which is incredibly expensive, hard to prove, and Tectone likely would not win a defamation case because the order of protection was granted. Well, if he's even allowed to file a lawsuit like that at this point.
I don't even know if he can.
On top of that, this horrendous court decision will give protection to people such as Hassan Piker, Denims, Mike from PA, and Miskiff when they call Tectone an abuser.
Yep, because he's not allowed to talk about the situation, but do you guys see why I'm reacting to this video?
And when they repeatedly lie about the facts of the case.
There was also, and this is confirmed, he had recordings of some of the sexual assaults and his victim in sexually compromising positions. And
why does Mike from PA's eyes dart around so much while he's talking? Bro reminds me of like a gecko.
Was ordered to delete all of them or else he was going to prison that
Why do they move so much?
day. The judge said, if you don't delete them right now, I'm going to put you in prison myself.
What was he looking at? He's like, this situation, and I would report him for, like, it's crazy.
This did not happen. All the judge said was to not share explicit content of Pikachu that was privately filmed. As for Tectone, on his return to live streaming after a long break, he stated that he wants to respect the court's decision and move on.
I lost the civil case. I did, but I do genuinely want to respect the court's decision. I believe, even though I lost the case, I do believe that this still gets me to where I want to go, which is for all parties to simply move on. That's pretty much all I want, is for everybody to go their separate ways.
He just wanted her out the fuck his life. He just wants her out the fuck his life, bro. She wanted revenge.
To be able to move on and find solace and peace in their life. Genuinely.
That's a very kind way to put it. I'd be a lot more mad. I mean, I was furious at the court's decision after doing the research, and this isn't even my life. But in times like this, I think we can look back on the words of wisdom from Keemstar about it being a stupid idea to date a chick who does OnlyFans. Anyway, thanks for watching, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.
I don't think anyone in this society is really going to think heavily about getting involved with anything when it comes to, like, workers of this type moving forward. Because hopefully the expose, the talk, all the facts, the details, the literal confirmation from Pink's lawyer that civil court is a vibe check. It's he said, she said. You don't need proof. It's about who's more believable. Let's start character assassinating Tech by lying about his schizophrenia, making fun of the fact he was raped as a child. Let's make fun of all of that shit, right, in court to make sure that we're more believable, right, Michelle Locke? Whatever her name is, I don't think they deserve any honorifics over here. Then you got Miss Dimple over here refusing to recuse herself, even though she has a history of needing to be recused prior to cases because she just doesn't have the, I don't know, authenticity, the willpower, the morals to do it herself. And then we got Tectone just being dumb because he had so many actions he could have taken, I think, to get a better result, and he just never took them. And I think it's just unfortunate, right? And, of course, we got Pink with that amazing opening statement from her lawyer, basically solidifying, my client is too mentally disabled to have any proof for these allegations. That is the basis of this case. My client is too mentally disabled to have any proof of the allegations. And that was enough to get an order. Gentlemen, we're not talking about ladies today. You are cooked. Stay single. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.